Hello, my name is Henrik Välja and I am the Managing Director of Estonian Forest and Wood Industries Association. And I'm pleased to give you an overview of Estonian forest and wood industries here today. Unfortunately, I could not be joining the event on its real time, so it will be done in a form of a recording. But I hope that you will find your answers and interesting ideas from my presentation. And if there are any questions that will be left unanswered during the event, you're always welcome to write me an email or contact me in any other way. Estonian Forest and Wood Industries Association is the main industry association in this sector. We don't really have many associations for all the different activities within this sector. We have chosen the path of having one association that covers basically the whole value chain. And as a result, we have roughly 67 members. And the members account for a total of 2 billion euros of turnover and over 6,000 employees. Now I will be sharing with you my presentation, which will be focusing on the forest and data, the forest industries and wood industries, and some outlook on where the industry is heading. To start off, the forest and wood industries is a very local industry sector. It's relying on the local raw material from local forests, and therefore this is what dictates a lot for this industry. In Estonia, more than half of the land area is covered with forests, and of those forests, there are 74% that are used as management forests, where wood procurement is the main goal of this land. In addition, there are 11% of forest land with limitations to management, but where some wood procurement is still allowed. And for last, there is 14% of strictly protected forest land that serves the goal of biodiversity in its first and foremost goal. And the 14% of strictly protected forest is among the highest percentages among the forestry countries in the Northern and Eastern Europe. And also in the managed forest, there are strict regulations on how one is allowed to manage the forest, when can the final cut be done, and on what conditions. The forest is owned half and half by state and private forest owners. The state forest has accumulated most of the protected forest lands, and therefore the managed forest area in the state forest is roughly 60%. And in the private forests, we see mostly managed forest land without any limitations. There are over 100,000 forest owners, and the average forest ownership is relatively small. The main tree species in Estonian forests are pine, birch, and spruce, and industry is also mostly focused on adding value to these tree species. The average annual cut from the forests is around 10.5 million cubic meters. It has been slightly increasing during the past decade due to investments that have been made into the wood processing industry. And this was also set as a goal in the National Forestry Program from 2010 to 2020, which even stated higher cut volumes than what we actually reached. The next National Forestry Program for 2030 has not been adopted. It's in the process of being put together. but it's my personal opinion that it will not be that relevant anymore, because the EU legislation due to climate neutrality goals and Green Deal will start dictating the forestry in a much more more influential way. When we are talking about LULUCF or biodiversity or forestry, this will all be directions that will be given from the EU level, and this is a very significant change in forestry policy. From the forest stand perspective, Estonia has a lot of mature forests, and the forest standing volume has been increasing steadily. So from just management perspective, we could even have a higher annual cut, but this would start influencing the biodiversity goals. So it has been maintained on this level that you can see here. The Estonian forest and wood industries is mostly focused on mechanical processing of wood, and this is due to the historical reasons that under the Soviet regime the wood industry was not developed, and in the 1990s the industry started from basically zero, and the mechanical processing industry has lower investment need than, for example, chemical or pulp industry, which demands for a very, very big investment for just one production facility. So this has enabled us to build up this mechanical processing value chain also further from the first value-added level. There are many processing industries in Estonia that are using sawn wood as their raw material, or even we can see that we have a lot of wood house factories that are using the wooden construction elements and make them into these prefabricated houses and then export them. From the forests, we see that we get roughly 40% of logs from the annual cut, which is decent, but it could be better. We get 24% of pulpwood and 36% of firewood and residues. The proportion is quite different in the state forest and in the privately managed forests. The state forest has been under government control for the past more than 100 years, and it has been managed quite continuously. And as a result, they get an outcome of logs around 50% and firewood only 15%. The private forests that are often old farmlands that have been that have grown into forests in a natural way, they get a much higher firewood and forest residues percentage and much less logs. This is something that can be seen as a problem, as we would be interested in adding the most possible value to every log or every wood, every tree from the forest. But unfortunately, it doesn't have a quick solution. The only thing that we can do is that we can grow the next forest generation to be a more of a healthier and higher quality one than the current one. Another characteristic that we can see in Estonian forest and wood industries is that due to the lack of modern pulp production, the pulpwood is mostly exported. And as a result, some of the pulpwood is being processed mechanically that is not being done, for example, in Scandinavia. The best example would be sawmills that are accepting spruce logs starting from 8 centimeters instead of maybe 12 centimeters in Finland, as it's just feasible in this condition where there is no competition from pulp production. However, this can use only the higher quality part of the pulpwood assortment. So still a pulpwood production of some sort would be much needed in the Baltic area that we could use this resource and add value to it before exporting it. So just to give a short overview of the value chain or the kind of structure of what we get from the forest and how we are using it, we can say that in the wood industry we can really see a circular economy being in working condition already, as the raw material is divided between different value-adding industries, and also the residues from these industries are shared within the different value-added industries. For example, from the sawmill, we get wood chips that go for cellulose production, and we get bark and sawdust that is used for energy production. So this means that no tree or no part of the tree is unused. Every little, even dust peckle, is used for something. In Estonia, the wood products are very important from the export and trade balance perspective. It is an industry sector with the highest positive trade balance when compared to the all goods in Estonia that have a negative trade balance. And the timber products account for 16% of total exports. And forest and wood industry, with its influence that is also given to logistics and, for example, ICT sector, it accounts for 14% of added value. So this can all be traced back to the forests. Now, in the export groups, we can see that higher kind of the bigger export products, they are of higher value added than the longer product group, mostly with the direction to construction. And the total export was 2.3 billion euros in 2020, and we were lucky that the industry didn't really suffer in this very crazy year. It was a bit of a scare in the beginning, but the industry recovered quickly and has been on a positive track since. And Estonia is also become quite a big importer of some wood products, mainly sawn wood. Now last year we were also imported saw logs already, like 500,000 cubic meters, that were then processed here in Estonia. And as I mentioned before, we have a very strong value adding chain that goes further from this first processing level. And therefore we are, in addition to the local production, importing sawn wood from all the neighboring countries, adding value to it by planing or producing glulam or windows and doors or wooden prefabricated houses, and then exporting this wood. Still, the local production is relatively small when compared to the export volumes. Or the local, not production, I mean the local consumption is relatively small when compared to export volumes. Yes. Just to show you a little about what does a modern industry look like. The Estonian forest and wood industry is, according to a research done by Swedbank, the most automated and the most digitalized industry sector in Estonia. Now, this is an operator's position in a pellet factory. As we can see, he is sitting in an office quite some distance away from the production line, and is able to manage the process from further away. But also in the sawmilling and in the mechanical processing, the digitalization and automation has a key role. It's really important, and has been able to has enabled the companies to be competitive on an international market. And I hope that this is a trend that continues, as there are still a lot of digitalization possibilities that we can reach for. And another maybe topic to bear in mind is that when I mentioned that Estonian forest and wood industry is heavily focused on construction, then I believe that the wood construction will have a bright future, as from a climate change mitigation perspective, use of wood in construction is really important and has a lot of potential. So I hope to see a growing demand for wood products in the construction sector. And I hope to see that as the buildings become bigger and more complex, we are able also to add more engineering to these wood products. That we wouldn't be selling just a cubic meter of glulam, but we would be selling a cubic meter of glulam that has a certain position in a very certain building project, and it has to take very certain loads. So it will already have this engineering value added in itself as well. And well, wood is a very ingenious material. It grows back. So therefore, I really do believe that this industry has a lot of future. Wood forests and producing wood is basically the only place where we can have multiple roles on the same land area. If we think about agriculture or mining, these land areas have only one function, but in the forests we can serve many functions in the same time. We can produce raw material for the society, offer a place for biodiversity, and also offer place for recreation. And I think that going forward, this is a really important value. And thank you for giving me the possibility to introduce Estonian Forest and Wood Industries Association. And as I mentioned before, if there are any questions that I am unfortunately not able to answer directly during your event, feel free to write me in through my email or LinkedIn or whatever the channel you prefer. Thank you.